Anne Boleyn is one of the most controversial women in history. To some, she was a homewrecker, a temptress who destroyed a queen and broke a kingdom. To others, she was intelligent, courageous, and tragically misunderstood. A woman who dared to stand beside an absolute king and paid the highest price for it. For nearly 500 years, historians, writers, and audiences have argued over one question. Was Anne Boleyn truly deserving of her fate? Or was she a victim of power, politics, and fear? Today, I won't tell you what to think. Instead, I will walk you through 5 reasons why some people have hated Anne Boleyn and why others have loved her. And at the end, you can decide for yourself who Anne Boleyn really was. The first reason many people have hated Anne Boleyn is also the one most often repeated. She was called the other woman, a homewrecker, the woman who broke a marriage and a kingdom. When Anne appeared at court, Henry VIII was already married to Queen Catherine of Aragon, a queen who had been loyal, patient, and queen for over 20 years. To many, Anne was the intruder, but the story is more complicated than that. To understand who Anne Boleyn truly was, we have to turn to the closest historical voices we have. Not rumors, not later accusations, but the private letters written by the man who pursued her. Henry VIII's love letters to Anne Boleyn. Written around the late 1520s, roughly between 1527 and 1530, these letters reveal something striking. Henry describes a woman who made him wait, a woman who left the court and refused to become his mistress. Anne chose absence over surrender. During the same period in which Henry's affection for Anne Boleyn intensified, records show that he began pursuing an annulment from Queen Catherine of Aragon. The desire to end his marriage did not come after Anne's ambition. It emerged alongside his obsession with her. And this is where the danger lies, because the desire of a king is not easily restrained. When a monarch wants something he cannot have, the world does not simply say no. Laws bend, faith is questioned, and women become symbols for choices they did not fully control. The second reason Anne Boleyn inspired both admiration and resentment was her mind. Anne was not silent, she was not passive, and she was not content to exist only as a decoration at court. She was highly educated for a woman of her time, fluent in French, trained in music and poetry, and deeply influenced by the intellectual and religious debates circulating through Europe in the early 16th century. Anne had spent years in the French court, where conversation, wit, and ideas mattered. And when she returned to England, she brought that sharpness with her. She spoke openly, she debated, she challenged. To some, this made her fascinating. To others, deeply unsettling. Because Tudor England was not a world that welcomed outspoken women, especially not women close to power. Anne did not merely listen to sermons. She discussed theology. She read reformist texts. She questioned tradition. And in doing so, she blurred lines that many believed should never be crossed. A woman with opinions was already dangerous. A woman whose opinions reached a king was something else entirely. Supporters saw Anne as modern, intelligent, and intellectually alive. Critics saw her as arrogant, manipulative, and too aware of her own influence. But intelligence, especially in women, has often been mistaken for ambition. And confidence has often been rewritten as threat. The third reason Anne Boleyn is remembered has nothing to do with scandal, romance, or court intrigue. It has everything to do with legacy. Anne Boleyn was the mother of Elizabeth I, a child born into controversy, declared illegitimate after her mother's fall, and nearly erased from the line of succession. When Anne gave birth in September 1533, she did not give Henry VIII the son he desperately wanted. She gave him a daughter, and in Tudor England, that was seen as failure. Elizabeth grew up marked by her mother's fate. She lost Anne before she was 3 years old. She was raised knowing that her mother had been executed, condemned as a traitor, and spoken of with shame. Yet history turned in a way no one at court could have predicted. Elizabeth I would become one of England's greatest monarchs, a queen who ruled for 45 years, a ruler who stabilized the kingdom, expanded its influence, and defined an era that still bears her name. And there was one final irony. Elizabeth I, the daughter Henry once considered a disappointment, became the last Tudor monarch. She never married. She never produced an heir. With her death in 1603, the Tudor bloodline ended. The dynasty Henry VIII fought so fiercely to secure did not continue through his sons. It ended with Anne Boleyn's daughter. Reason number 4 is the most shocking of all. Anne Boleyn was accused of crimes so extreme that they still disturb us today: adultery, incest, and treason against the king. According to the charges, Anne had taken multiple lovers, including her own brother, George Boleyn. These accusations painted her not as a queen, but as a monster. Yet when historians examine the records closely, something feels deeply wrong. The alleged affairs were said to have happened on dates when Anne was in different locations. Some of the men named had no opportunity to be alone with her. Others had already fallen out of favor with the crown. Even more troubling, many of the accusations appeared suddenly, just as Henry VIII was desperate for a new wife and a male heir. In Tudor England, treason was not only about rebellion. To threaten the king's lineage was to threaten the state itself. And Anne's greatest crime may not have been what she did, but what she failed to give: a son. In the end, reason number 5 is Anne Boleyn's tragic ending. She was erased in life and rewritten in history. Condemned on charges so extreme they sounded impossible, yet delivered as if they were already truth. For centuries, she carried a ruined name. Only in recent decades have historians begun to question whether those accusations were ever real at all. A woman once loved passionately by the King of England lost her life to the man who had promised her the world.
The morning learned to hold its breath before the light could stay. A fragile wind touched broken leaves and quietly walked away.